Hey there, it's Karen Haley, the digestive coach for moms, and it's 9 o'clock, it's Thursday, and that must mean that it's time for another Gut Love Live session. I gotta clarify, 9 o'clock Eastern time, and so yeah, it's time for some gut love. Now, I have a question for you, but before I ask you that, let me just make sure that my computer is set up so I can see your comments coming in. Okay. Now, ooh, my little guy, you can't see my little guy. There we go. That's my poop guy. Okay, so I've got a question for you, and the question is this. Have you tried a gluten-free eating plan only to come up short? Only to feel like a failure because you feel like it didn't work for you and you just don't know why? Now, in order to really get this, I want to paint a picture for you. I want to really tell you a story about how this comes to be, how this happens. You are dealing with gut struggles like Crohn's and colitis, IBS. Maybe you have chronic diarrhea, or a lot of times what happens is there's chronic diarrhea and constipation. It kind of goes back and forth. That scenario is a lot more common than you might realize. So you're dealing with these gut struggles, and you have a friend or a brother or a sister or your child's teacher at school or the piano teacher or your neighbor, somebody says to you, you know what, my brother's uncle's cousin's roommate, or some sort of scenario like that, tried a gluten-free eating plan. And it worked so well for them. I know you're struggling with gut issues. Why don't you give it a try? And that's what you do, right? You guys know, this is exactly how it happens, right? You try it, and then it doesn't work. And you feel like, I said, you feel like a failure because you feel like it's working for everybody. Why is this not working for me? And I gotta tell you, this happens so often. So if you're feeling like this is you are really not alone. This happens so often. And so then you're thinking to yourself, well, this didn't work for me. It didn't take away my gut pain. It didn't take away my diarrhea. And if you're one of the lucky ones, you might say, well, it helped my symptoms about 50%, I'd say, but it didn't help them 100%. So I'm still kind of feeling a little funky, and I don't know if this gluten-free thing is working or not because I don't feel 100% right. This happens all the time. And so what I want to talk with you about tonight is the top 5 reasons why this happens. But better than that, I want to talk with you about what you can do instead. Now, before we get to talking about that, let's find out if you are in the right place. Is this video worth your time, or should you keep scrolling through your Facebook feed? So this video is for you if, number 1, you're a mom. Are you a mom? Okay, you can start to sit down a little bit. Now, number 2, you'll probably guess this one, you're dealing with gut struggles. The gut struggles, those chronic gut struggles, if I could talk, those chronic gut struggles that I talked about earlier, Crohn's and colitis, IBS, the chronic diarrhea and constipation issues. Are you a mom, and are you dealing with gut struggles? If you're a mom and you're dealing with those chronic gut issues, then you gotta sit down. This video is definitely going to be for you. Now, we're going to be talking about those 5 reasons that the gluten-free eating plan is just not working for you. We're going to talk about that. But before we get started with that, you're also in the right place if you want to be part of the Gut Love community, because here it's all about moving beyond medicine to quiet our gut struggles so that we can be the mom we always dreamed we'd be. I love it when I get to say that. Can I get an amen for that? It just gets me really excited because when you think about it, that's really powerful stuff. Being able to quiet your gut symptoms so that you can be the mom that you just know deep down in your gut, if you could really, and pun intended, I guess, right? If you could get rid of those symptoms, you know that you would be that mom that you dreamed you'd be, that mom that isn't in pain any longer, that doesn't have to sit on the toilet all the time. So if that's you, then you have got to put the kids to bed. It's time. You got to take a break, grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and just hang out with me for a minute. Just join this gut-changing conversation. Okay, if you know you're in the right place, then let's go ahead and get started. And I don't know if you can hear that, but there must be a full moon or something tonight because there's chaos in my house. You can tell me if there's chaos, whether you're watching this live or in the recap. You can tell me, is there chaos in your house too? Because there's chaos. So if you hear any like giggle, giggle, giggle and craziness going on, that's just my kids in the next room. Okay, let's get started. And I want to back up a little bit further because earlier this week, I posted a video and a blog on my website, KarenHaley.com, and that's Karen with a Y. And I posted a blog, and the blog was all about this gut, this gluten issue, if you're gluten-free and it's not working, the 5 reasons why it's not working and what to do about it. So with this video, what I want to do is take this even further, take it even deeper, do a really big deep dive into this. So in order to do that, I just want to recap with you really quickly what was on that blog. Now, if this really resonates with you, I want you to go back. I want you to check the blog out because it has some wonderful information. It's got a great video where you can see all about what these 5 things are. But just to give you the 50-cent version, if you will, just to give you a quick recap, here's what was on it. It was, again, those top 5 things, those top 5 reasons why your gluten-free eating plan is not working. So, reason number 1. And I have my notes here because I don't want to forget to tell you what one is. Reason number 1, you're gluten-free but sad. Now, I'm not talking about being unhappy or depressed here. I'm talking about that SAD as an acronym, the Standard American Diet. So, did you go ahead and switch from your regular Standard American Diet to a gluten-free eating plan only to continue the Standard American Diet? Those processed foods, did you do that? If you did that, you might be sabotaging your gluten-free journey because it's not just about the gluten that's damaging our gut. It's also about the processed food, the junk. So you could be switching from a regular Standard American Diet to a gluten-free diet only to just do no good to your gut. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the bread, the pasta, the cake, the cereal, the bagels, the pancakes, the waffles, the candy, the cookies, the chips, right? All of that processed food. If you switched from a regular Standard American Diet to a gluten-free Standard American Diet, you're probably not any better. So what can you do? Use this as an opportunity to go ahead and clean up your diet. Going gluten-free and cleaning up using a more whole foods approach is really going to help the gluten-free eating plan work for your gut. Okay, so that's reason number 1 why it's not working. Reason number 2, remember I mentioned it's all in, I know I'm going to be going fast through this, but I promise you it's all in the blog over at KarenHaley.com, and you can check out all the details there. But I just want to give you the overview so that then we can dive even deeper. So reason number 2 is the FDA gets in the way. So what am I talking about here? That Food and Drug Administration. They have several years ago, they came up with guidelines to decide what would determine if a food would be called gluten-free. And what they came up with was the guideline of less than 20 parts per million. If there was less than 20 parts per million of gluten, then it could be considered gluten-free. Well, for some people, this 20 parts per million is actually too much. For the highly sensitive gluten individuals, that's too much. And I'm not talking about people that have celiac here. I want to make that really clear. You can actually be highly sensitive to gluten and not have celiac disease. If you're the kind of person that reacts to gluten in skincare products, in your shampoo, in lotions, in makeup, then you're probably highly sensitive. And so you might want to do a couple things instead. So if you're trying gluten-free, it's not working, try these couple things. Number 1, you want to buy foods that are certified gluten-free because with that certified gluten-free label comes less gluten. Their requirement is less than 10 parts per million, so you're definitely going to get less gluten that way. You can also focus on eating foods that are naturally gluten-free. Those would be foods like your meat, seafood, your fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, things that are not marinated, right? These are those kinds of foods in their natural state. When you focus on those things, you're going to be able to avoid gluten. Reason number 3 that your gluten-free eating plan is not working is gluten is not your only culprit. Now, here's the thing with gluten sensitivity. With people that are sensitive to gluten, other sensitivities tend to go hand in hand. So if you're sensitive to gluten, you may also be sensitive to things like dairy and soy and corn and GMOs. So if you're sensitive to these things and you're just taking away gluten, you are not creating a whole body of wellness, right? And so you might be one of those people I mentioned a little while ago where maybe you're about 50% better, but you're not completely better and you can't figure out what is that other 50%. Chances are there's another sensitivity going on there. And what can you do about it? Well, you can get some really good high quality food sensitivity testing. Now I go over this in detail about where you want to go and what kind of testing to get over on that blog post. So you know what I'll do? I'm going to post a link to the blog in the comments below. So if you haven't seen that blog post yet and you really want the details, if this really feels like you, if you're saying, yes, I tried the gluten-free eating plan, it didn't work for me, I can't figure out why, you want to go over and check that out. So I'm going to post that link in the comments under the video here. So you're trying the sensitivity testing so that you can find out exactly what you're sensitive to. Now, sensitivity testing can be expensive. So if that is the case, if it's not in your budget, you can also do an elimination diet and you can also find out what foods you're sensitive to that way. Again, I give more details about this on the blog post. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is a simple one, but it's one we can all relate to. I can relate to it. I know you can relate to it too. Reason number 4 is you cheat, right? And we all do this. I know it might be intentional cheating, it might be unintentional cheating, but your gluten-free program is not going to work if you even cheat just a little bit, especially in the beginning. When you're really trying to heal those gut issues that you're having, those gut struggles, when you're having the chronic pain and diarrhea, constipation maybe, when you're having those kinds of issues, you do not want to cheat. So especially in the beginning, you gotta do it 100%. Now, some of that cheating can be intentional, right? You're cleaning the plates from dinner and there's that little bit of mac and cheese on your kid's plate and you don't want to throw it away because you don't want to be wasteful, so you just take a little bite of it. You just sabotaged your gluten-free experience. So cheating could be intentional, but it can also be unintentional, especially in the beginning. Maybe you don't know everything that contains gluten, and so possibly you go to a restaurant and you get glutened, or possibly you didn't know that that salad dressing had gluten, or the soy sauce that you have at home and it has gluten in it, and you just didn't know. So it could be unintentional. Now, what can you do about this? Well, the best thing that you can do is get educated. Educate, educate, educate. Know all of the ins and outs. What has gluten and what doesn't. It's not just found in wheat, it's found in a lot of boxed and canned products that we buy every day. So we got to know about it. Now, if you're saying to yourself, this is me, I know that I tried gluten-free and it didn't work, and I know that it's because I just didn't know enough about it, I'm really happy to tell you that I can help you with that. I actually have a program called Gluten Freedom for Moms, and it's all about getting super educated and starting you on the right path to your gluten-free journey. If that's something that is of interest to you, you and I could talk about it during a free clarity session. And you know what I'll do? I can post a link to how to apply for a clarity session with me. What happens is we talk about the different things that are going on with your diet and your digestive health, and then I can tell you, would that program be a good fit for you? So that's my Gluten Freedom for Moms program, and so I'll put a link under the comments so that you can see how to apply for a clarity session with me, and we can talk about that program. Okay, last one. Last reason why your gluten-free diet just is not working, and the last reason is because you don't give it enough time. Now, I have seen this happen time and time again. It especially happens with the skeptics, and I know those skeptics. Are you one of those? It happens, and I've got them in my family too. It happens when you say, you begrudgingly try it, right? Your friend, your uncle, your brother, whoever you heard about it from told you it might help you, so you try it, but you don't really believe in it. So you don't really buy into it so much, right? And when you don't really buy in, when you're kind of skeptical, you might not give it enough time. I know this was the case for my parents when they tried it the first time. Sometimes you got to try it a few times. The third time's the charm, right? So sometimes you got to try it a few times. But I know for them, after a couple weeks, they said, the food tastes different and I just don't like it, and it didn't help. Well, 2 weeks is not really long enough. You really have to stay on a gluten-free plan for, I would say, about 3 months. Yeah, about 3 months to see if it's going to help your gut issues at all. All right, so at least give it 3 months. Experts will say a minimum of 3 weeks to 3 months. And sometimes with gut issues, with really chronic gut issues, it can take even longer, up to 6 months. But I would say if you don't see any improvement in 3 months, then you did give it a fair shake. Okay, but try for that 3 months. So I just recapped the blog post for you. That's what was on the blog post. If you want to get more details, more in-depth information, head on over to KarenHaley.com and you can get the full blog post. But now, on this Facebook Live, what I'd like to do is just go deeper. Let's say that you did gluten-free, you did all of those things, right, that we talked about. You gave it enough time. You know what all your food sensitivities and all of your culprits are. You were buying food that was certified gluten-free. You got rid of all the processed food, right? Let's say you did all of those things and you still came up short. You still found that eating gluten-free did not work for you. Now, I'm talking to you. If this is you, this part is definitely going to benefit you. So come back to me. Stop the multitasking that I know we moms always do. Come back to me because I'm going to tell you some important things that you can do next. Okay, I've got 3 things for you. 3 things that you can try if you already tried gluten-free and you did it according to the plan that I just laid out for you. You did all of those things and it still didn't work. What can you do now? Okay, so step number 1. Step number 1 is to remove not only those processed foods, but I want you to think about removing the chemicals, the dyes, the artificial colors, the artificial flavors, the GMOs. I want you to think about removing those as well, because it's not just about removing the gluten with our gut health. People that have struggles with gut issues also tend to be sensitive to those chemicals, right? That red dye number 4 and blue dye number 40. We tend to be sensitive to those things as well. So if you've done all of those things and it didn't really help you heal 100%, I want you to try that first. Okay, now if that didn't work, or if that did work, but it worked just a little bit and there's still some more healing, I want you to move on to step number 2. And step number 2 is thinking about the glyphosates in your diet. Now, do you know that word? Are you familiar with that word? And if you're on with us live, say hi in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. But type 1 in the chat if you have heard that. Whether you're watching live or in the replay, let me know. Are you familiar with glyphosates? Glyphosates, another word for glyphosates would be Roundup. Roundup is the chemical herbicide that's used on crops to help kill weeds, right? So they want the crops to grow hardy and they want them to be strong, and so they spray this chemical on it to do that. Unfortunately, glyphosate comes with, or that Roundup as it's called, it comes with a lot of negative impact to our gut and actually to other parts of our body as well. So the problem is the World Health Organization in 2015 declared this Roundup, they declared it a possible carcinogen. Now a carcinogen is something that causes cancer. So it's affecting us on the cancer level, but it's also affecting our gut because glyphosates can also impact our gut. It can alter our microbiome. It can alter our gut bacteria. So if you're using the foods, and you would actually be surprised, so glyphosates are found in wheat, but they're not just found in wheat. So if you removed the wheat and you're still having problems, and you removed the gluten and you're still having problems, it might be due to the glyphosate on other crops. Like, for example, one of the other crops that they spray it on is sugarcane. And how many products do we buy that are boxed, canned, or packaged that contain sugar? We don't even think about it. It could even be gluten-free. So what about your gluten-free chicken noodle soup? Does that have sugar in it? If it does and it's not organic, it probably contains glyphosates. What about that can of diced tomatoes? Does that contain sugar? If it does, it might contain glyphosate. So you might be getting glyphosate and not even realizing it, because of course your can of tomatoes doesn't say glyphosates, right? And so if you've tried the gluten-free eating plan and it didn't work, you might want to try removing glyphosates from your diet, because it can help your gut heal. And how do you do that? I'm so glad you asked, because the way you do that is to eat organic. Organic food should not contain glyphosates. So if you're eating organic and you're eating gluten-free, now you can ensure that your gut will hopefully move in the right direction of healing. Okay, I mentioned that there were 3 of these things you can try. If you tried those, if your gluten-free eating plan didn't work, if you've tried those and you know you're doing them right, now we've moved on to the 3 steps. We talked about removing the chemicals and the additives and the preservatives from your diet. We talked about removing glyphosate from your diet. And last but not least, we want to talk about removing all grains. It's possible, and this was definitely the case for me, it's possible that just removing the gluten-containing grains was not enough. It's possible that your gut, and this happens in a lot of cases with Crohn's and colitis, it might be that your gut needs to remove all grains in order to heal fully. So what am I talking about here when I talk about grains? I'm talking about the eating plans like the paleo eating plan, the GAPS diet, the specific carbohydrate diet. I'm talking about those kinds of eating plans. Now, those diets, if I were to tell you all the ins and outs about those, that would probably be its own hour-long video, because there's a lot to tell you, what to eat, what not to eat. But the good news is that I do have a cheat sheet for you about this. So if it's something that you think you're interested in, if you think that you've tried gluten-free, but it helped you a little, but you felt like there was a little bit missing, there was a missing puzzle piece, if you will, going grain-free could be that puzzle piece. And if you're interested in that, I want you to type cheat sheet in the comment section. So type cheat sheet in the comment section, and I'll be happy to send you that cheat sheet that I have. It has all of those. It actually even includes gluten-free on there. So if you want more information about gluten-free as well, you could get that too. But it also has the other eating plans, those grain-free eating plans. It even has information about the autoimmune paleo approach. So it has all of that. If you're interested in getting your hands on that cheat sheet that talks about going grain-free, then just type cheat sheet in the comments below and I'll be happy to send that to you, okay? All right, so those are the 3 things that you can do. That is our deep dive approach. What do you think? How did this information land for you? I want you to let me know. All right, if you found this video helpful, give me some love, give some hearts. I would love, love, love it if you would. And if you know another mom friend who would find this information valuable, please share this with her so that we can all get much needed gut love in our lives. Now, if you want to go further than this, if you want to know more about gut healing information, I've got 2 things that you can do. And these are both free. I love free. Don't you love free? So, number 1 is join our free and fabulous Gut Love community for moms. You can join our group where you can connect with moms that are going through the same gut struggles that you're going through, which is so priceless, right? Because we go through our lives. I don't know about you, but it's so hard to find other moms that have Crohn's and colitis and are dealing with these gut struggles, right? It's a place where there's no judgment. Everybody's gone through what you've gone through in a number of different ways, and we all are there to support each other. You get gut healing recipes. You get access to free live workshops with gut healing information. And you also get access to me to ask your questions, those gut troubling questions that are on your mind. So if you're interested in that, I'll go ahead and put the link in the comments as well, so you can join that community. It's absolutely free. Now, if you want to get some absolute personal attention, if you want to talk one-on-one about what's been going on with you, about some gut issues that you're having, then I encourage you to connect with me and have a clarity session. This is a free 30-minute session. It's focused just on you, where we get to talk about your digestive issues and we make a plan for how it would be best for you to move forward. If you're dealing with some of these gluten challenges we talked about, it might be that the Gluten Freedom for Moms program would be a good fit for you. And if maybe we need to take it even a step further, then it might be some one-on-one work. But we can talk about that in a free clarity session. And I just opened some new spots for clarity sessions, so I'll make sure that you have the link in the comments below if you decide you want to schedule a clarity session with me. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed our time together. You know we'll be back together again soon. And until then, I have to wish you much gut love and much happiness always. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.